All right. So in this video, I'm gonna do a short tutorial on the step-by-step process of making one of these Gyutakus. Really adds a different dimension to your fishing when you can capture your catch like this on the rice paper, have it on your wall, and you can see it on a daily basis. It's really cool, really fun, pretty easy to do, and I've had so much fun with it, so I highly recommend it. And again, I'll show you a simple way of doing it. All right, Mark here. I'll show you the process. I'll see you.
Good afternoon, Mark here. I've got a fish here that I'm going to do a Gyutaku demonstration on. At least how I do it. There's different ways these can be done, but I'll show you the way I've done mine. Do everything from big halibut, big sea bass, all the way down to smaller fish. So this happens to be a striped bass. So I'll show you how I do it. As far as supplies go, almost everything, like a lot of my stuff, comes from Amazon, eBay. The first thing you're going to want are lots of gloves. I do lots of gloves so that the paper doesn't get smudges on it, because that's really key. The fish has to pop out on the rice paper, and if you get smudges, that's going to distract from the print of the fish. So you got to keep control of that, and the only way to do that is lots and lots of gloves. I get these from Harbor Freight. And then water soluble sumi ink. It's a soot ink that's easy to wash off, that's non-toxic. I get this from eBay. Cheap brushes, Harbor Freight, and disposable bowl. I'm going to put the sumi ink in, and lots of paper towels. You're going to use tons and tons of paper towels. And then I've cut to size a bunch of sheets of rice paper, and these are what the prints are actually going to be made on. And this particular rice paper, it's got a lot of fiber that you can see, and I'm going to put a black backing to it so that the fiber pops out, and then of course the fish outline as well. So, and then lastly, after the prints have been made, I've got my honko. It's a wood block with my name on it, my signature, and the red paste. You can see right here the red paste that I get from China. It's pretty high quality. It's like 50 bucks for this ball. The ball is really hard. It comes with a ox bone that you actually have to mix the ball with, stir it, and the ox bone is what's strong enough to be able to do that. Everything else breaks. So the whole key with the honko paste that the signature is going to be made with is that it's a lot of plant fiber mixed with iron oxide, and the plant fiber holds it so that the dye, so that it doesn't bleed out into the paper. If you do just like a regular red stamp, it's going to bleed in the paper. This, the plant fiber, it's mugwort in particular, it holds the redness, the red dye in place, and gives you a crisp print without bleeding out. So that's the last step though. All right, so the first step in this whole process is you got to dry the fish off really good. Moisture is your enemy with these prints, so you really got to dry the fish off thoroughly. So I just start like this. And you can see I got the red dye on my gloves, so I've got to throw that away. Put on some fresh gloves so I don't put red dye on the fish. I don't want any red smudges coming out on the print, so I'll be doing this glove change a lot. This fish came as a surprise yesterday. Wasn't expecting it. Wasn't getting a whole lot of bites. And all of a sudden, in some of the roughest surf that you can imagine, this thing hit. And it was like a freight train. For its size, using the surf against you, it's like pretty amazing. The line is peeling and it's a lot of excitement. With this particular one, I lucked out. I actually got knocked. I was preoccupied with the fish and wasn't paying attention to the surf and got knocked over by the wave, but was able to keep tension on the line and bring the fish in. Definitely made my day, as you can imagine. So I'm gonna keep dabbing away at this. I want it thoroughly dry. The back fin, I want splayed out because I want that as big as I can make it. And then you just dry it and make sure it's out, and you dry it. These fish are built like torpedoes. They just keep going. Sorry about the door there. I've got a family that just arrived back. I was trying to get it in here ahead of time, but alas. So yeah, I just kind of splay out those fins and just keep drying it. And when you dry it, they'll stay out for you. Because that's a real key part of the Gyutaku is that back fin. That demonstrates the power of the fish. And then of course the dorsal fins. I want to try to get as much of that in the Gyutaku as possible. So we dry all that out. If you don't dry it thoroughly, you have moisture, again, that ink is gonna bleed all over the place. And instead of getting a crisp print, you're just gonna get a lot of blurry smudge. So, there we go. And as far as the dorsal fins go, they've got spines in them, and I just kind of splay them out and poke them into the paper towel that I put on top of the table. And it'll hold them up so that when you put the paper down, you can get that impression as well. You're gonna wanna get the pectoral fins as well. So make those sure they're really dry. This first pectoral fin is key in the Gyutaku. I know it's kind of hard to see from that distance, but the pectoral fin on the surface, the side that you're working on, that's key. You're gonna wanna pull that out and make sure that is present. And let's get this. And you just keep drawing. Thank you. Thankfully, with the striped bass, they don't have as much moisture as other fish. Not as much slime to deal with. Keep drying it and drying it and drying it. So right now I'm just coating the fish with the suit ink. I'm gonna do all the fins, the tail. You do the fins and the tail extra heavy. And then we're gonna be dabbing most of this off. So at first the prints come out kind of smudgy. And imperfect. And every take that you do, there's going to be a little residual soot ink that's just left on the fish. And so your subsequent prints are going to be better and better. I found, at least with my experience, by the 9th and 10th time you do the print, it's coming out the way you want it. So I go through a lot of rice paper, so this isn't a cheap prospect if you want something quality, but anyway, that's just from my experience. So after you get all the ink on here, you're going to want to dab off most of it. So you dab off less from the tail, because for some reason the tail comes out lighter and you want the tail to be really heavy. So you just start dabbing. And a similar thing with the other fins, pectoral, dorsal fins. You want to dab, but leave plenty of ink there because they tend to come out lighter for some reason. And they're one of the most important items on the fish. They can really make or break a Gyutaku. And then this pectoral fin here, or ventral fin, you want to dab the ink under it really good because that'll bleed out on the paper. Just keep dabbing the fish. You want to take most of the ink off. The most important aspect of the fish, as you can imagine, is the head. And that can be really difficult because you get moisture coming out of the gill plates, and it's difficult to get the right darkness. Also, right here in the mouth, as you open the mouth, there's a lot of moisture in that area. Really make sure that's dry because that'll cause the ink to bleed out on the paper. So I'm getting underneath the fins here because I don't want any bleed out. The cool thing with these stripers is the scales are really pronounced, so they're really going to show up. All right, so once you've got the fish pretty much dabbed off, I've got a garbage can here ready to use. Once you got it dabbed off, the next thing I do, I get paper towel like this, and I'm gonna put a fresh run of paper towel underneath the fish so that the ink that I got on the paper towel right here doesn't transfer onto the rice paper or the mulberry paper. So I'm going to take several sections like this. And we're going to lift the fish up like so. You can imagine with a big halibut or a big white sea bass, this is a much more difficult prospect. Just lifting the fish is an event in itself, and you're having to do this. At least I do the same process with those big fish as well. So, okay. So there's our fish on clean paper towel. So nothing's gonna transfer off. And now I'm gonna remove my gloves. Don't want any of that transferring onto the rice paper that we're gonna put on. So next we're gonna put on another pair of gloves. The gloves are probably one of the single most important aspects of doing this. Just a single smudge on the paper and it really detracts from the fish. So frequent change of gloves is important. All right, so I've pre-cut one of these sections. Now to do this, you also want the rice paper to be really straight. And I use this board right here. It's a sewing board. It's got all the lines on it and stuff. And I line up the paper on it and cut it with a razor blade and a straight edge. I don't know if you can see it right there. I have a big straight edge. That way I get all my dimensions straight. This is very important. Then next I'm going to put the paper on. And I'm going to take the paper that I cut with the straight edge on that sewing board, and I'm going to take it, and you never want it to be straight. You want the fish to be angled, either down or up. Otherwise it comes out like with a flat presentation. You want it to look dynamic. This particular one, I'm gonna make pointing down because it was particularly hunting sand crabs. So it's gonna have its nose pointed down looking for sand crabs that are scurrying around on the bottom. So I'm gonna make it pointed down. And I'm gonna put the paper, to get that presentation just like that. All right, so I just dropped it on the fish. And now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go along the side of the fish like this. And it kind of straightens out the paper. And I'm gonna slowly rub the fish. So I rub the central part of it, and it kind of makes the paper stick to the fish so that you don't have a lot of movement around. And then I go from there to working on the tail before that ink dries, because I really want that tail to be pronounced. That's like the outboard motor of the boat. So if you're taking a picture of a motorboat, that outboard motor is probably a very important aspect. So I just keep rubbing. You can even take the bristle brush and rub with that as well. Make sure you get all that detail in. And then I slowly make the paper curve on the fish. One of the tricky things is when you come to the belly of the fish, if you go the entire length of the belly all the way around, the picture's gonna come out distorted. So I only go like halfway down the belly. So, but right now I'm gonna do the dorsal. And you can do the whole dorsal up to the dorsal fin. You really don't wanna go in the curvature of the fish, you don't really wanna go beyond the dorsal fin, or else you get distortion there as well. So I'm coming down to the dorsal fin, and I really like to use the brush on the dorsal itself. And it's okay if you don't get a ton of detail on this. With subsequent prints that you do, there's gonna be enough residual ink that it's gonna come out better and better. It's gonna be more detailed. You don't wanna rub too hard, especially if it's wet, because that paper will tear. And the brush really does give you control when it comes to detail. Next, I come down to the anal fin. Rub it with the bristle brush again. The more detail of the fins that you can get, the better. It really helps. Okay, now we've got the pectoral fin underneath the chin, kind of, or just in back of the chin. So what I do with that is I make sure that I can see it, and you're actually going to have to pull that fin out. You're actually going to have to pull it out, and then I put my finger there to hold it, and I start rubbing it. There we go. Get as much detail there as you can, and then lift up. There we go. Make sure it retracts again. Okay. Now, there we go. So we got that pectoral fin done. Now I'm going to slowly come across the top of the head. You don't want to rub the top of the head because again, that's going to distort the head. So you just go, if you follow, you went as far as the dorsal fin. So you just want to follow at that level all the way up above the eye towards the nose. Okay. Rub the gill plates really good. And find where the mouth is and just follow the edge with 2 fingers, both edges on that mouth. You'll see, it takes some practice. And of course, when you've done one print, you know where you are and what you need to do for the next print. So each fish is going to be a little different. The main thing is you don't get discouraged. So worst case scenario, you know, even if it's not perfect, it still looks good. It's just over time you want to, your goal is to get the best print you possibly can. So the more you do, the better you want it to look. Okay, so I'm going to go, I'm basically done. I'm just going to do a quick brush over and then we're going to move on to the next print. All right, so now at this point, since I've been touching the fish, I'm going to be touching the paper and I want to peel it up without smudging it. So I'm going to change my gloves again, just like so. All right, I'm going to slowly peel up on the paper and see what we've got here. There we go. That's what the first print looks like. It's not bad, it's pretty good. For a first print, that's pretty good. And that's probably because these stripers have much less moisture on their surface. So, and they have very defined scales, so the transfer is much better. So yeah, anyway, that's the first print. I'm gonna crank out another 8 of these or so, and then we'll pick the best one. So, oh, and then you just lay these, if you have a couch, you just lay these over the back of the couch and let them dry. So I just curl them over the backs of the couches. Ready. So at this point, I'm going to do another take. So I'm going to take my water-soluble soot ink and I'm going to coat the fish again, just like the prior time. We're going to keep doing this till we get it right. Just cover that fish. So again, I get this ink from eBay. I get the 3 packs because I tend to go through it quite quickly. So also the rice paper that I'm using, I primarily get from Amazon. The jumbo fish though, like the big 40 club halibut, the big white sea bass, it takes a very large sheet, right? And so the vendor that I'm using for that, it's called Mile High Stores. And they're based in Colorado. And I order the rolls of that. You know, you're spending a few $100 on the paper, but well worth it. It's got it's nice bleached mulberry rice paper with the fibers that really stand out. So again, Mile High Stores, highly recommend them. Very quality paper. But for fish this size, Amazon sizes will work for you. So let's go over the fins again. All right. So we got this fish coated. Now we're going to put the fresh paper towel underneath again, so we don't get any bleed out. Okay. Just like so. Again, I'm going to angle that fish down a little bit. It's hunting for sand crabs, right? All right. Now we'll pull this fin out, make that fin look big. At the ends of this tail, you have it's like a fan. It's like a micro fantail grouper. You have all these little tiny finlets coming out, and you really want that to show. So you want to really spread this tail out. And then again, the dorsal fin, I'm gonna poke right there in the paper towel so that stands out. And now we can start the dabbing process. And after this, we'll put another fresh paper towel down and then do our print again. Alrighty. Dab all that excess. The reason that subsequent prints turn out is it is really hard to know how much to dab off, and as the prints develop, you can dab off a lot more ink and still have the print turn out. So you start to make the ink very lean towards the end, and you have enough residual stuff on there that it's gonna show up. So. As long as you dab most of the ink off, you're going to come out good with those subsequent prints. The first ones, though, it's tricky. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Get under that pectoral fin because that will bleed out on the paper. Open that mouth up, get rid of that ink in the fissures because that will bleed out. Make sure that's nice and dry. Very good. Okay, I think we're ready for a print at this point. We're going to get more paper towel here. Lots of paper towels, lots of gloves. This is not a stage you want to skimp on. There we go. So the reason we're using water-soluble sumi ink is because we're going to spray this fish off, wash it thoroughly, and once we scale it, there's no toxic residue, and we're going to eat this fish. So there's a lot of studios in Japan, from what I hear, that cater to tourists, and basically what they do is they take a fish that you've caught on a party boat or whatever, and they Gyutaku it for you in the studio, and then they serve you dinner with the fish. So I've always thought that's a real cool thing. So nothing goes to waste. So I really like that. All right, new pair of gloves. Get another one of my pre-cut papers. And I've already angled the fish down, so all I have to do is put the paper on straight. Making sure to cover everything. There we go. Boom. Again, I start on the midsection of the fish. There we go, just to make sure that paper is anchored, isn't going to wiggle. And I'm going to work on the tail again. Using the brush again, just to really bring out that detail. And each fish is different, each variety is different, and there's certain aspects of the fish that you just you personally want to bring out. So that's where the art lies. What you want to what part of the fish you want to accentuate. Curving around to the dorsal. If you get a few wrinkles in the paper, that's okay. It's kind of hard depending on the shape of the fish. You're not going to get it wrinkle free. So there's going to be some places where you do have wrinkles. You want to minimize those, of course, but all right. So now I'm going to take the pectoral fin, I'm going to hold it out while I put the paper on top. Use my brush. The hard parts, when you let go of it, it tends to smear as it retracts back in. So I just do that. Hold it with my brush. And then I'm going to lift up on the paper. There we go. That was almost a perfect print there. So then I'm going to push that fin back in so it's not in the way, not smudging things up. Okay. Put on another glove, of course. With this one, I curved around underneath the belly too much. So we're going to have some distortion there. So I'll just remember it more when I do the next print. Okay. Found the eye. I usually put my finger on the eye and just wiggle my finger around. And the eye will come out in the print appropriately. Again, I only want to rub on the top of the head down to the level of the dorsal fin. And so now for reference, I want to get that mouth. So I take my two fingers like this, and I follow the edge of that mouth, top and bottom, and rub that. That tells me, and that shows me the ink bleeds through, and it shows you where that mouth is, and then you can rub appropriately on either side of that. So primarily these prints that I do, they're raw. I don't do a whole lot of touch-up. Touch-up goes all the way to detail painting and all of that. I get satisfaction just from, I just want a rough print of the fish. And that simplicity is what I really enjoy. So I try to maintain that. Just gonna take this brush. And rub. Where you rub is where it's gonna transfer. So that's another aspect of the art of this thing. Where do you rub, you know? And that only comes with practice. You learn over time. All right. That's enough for that one. So let's, my hands are pretty clean. Just make sure here. And here's our second print. So on and so forth. We'll keep going. Looks pretty good though. Like I said, by the 8th time, you're really looking good. So, all right, I'm gonna lay this over the couch and we're gonna continue on. All right, now we're going for the 5th print. And do just what I did before. Thoroughly cover this fish with the soot ink. Just like so. You're always hoping when you pull that paper up that magic has happened. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. So that's why it takes so many takes. Okay. Now we can dab that ink off. That's out right. Make sure that is out next time better. Get that ink under the pectoral fin there. Want it to be a little darker than the last take. So that's where the skill is. You know, how much ink do you take off? And the only way you know is by looking at your prior takes. And the reason subsequent ones are looking better is because they're more forgiving, because there's more residue ink left after you dab. If you dab at all, you still have more residue left. So that's why. Okay. Let's give that one a try. Get some more lengths of paper towel again. Get that fishy up. Angle it down the position you want. If you do get some smudging on the paper towel that you think might transfer, you can always just take another piece like this and just kind of lay it down there, cover that. There you are. Okay. print of that pectoral fin. Came out perfect. And then lifted the paper so I could push it back in so it doesn't smudge up my rice paper. Next, I'm gonna hit the head, get the mouth, get the eye, get that forehead leading up to the top jaw. Not going too far though. Get the lower jaw. Get the detail of the lower jaw. And get the gill plate. You don't want to get the chin though under the gill plate because that provides distortion. So even if the gill plate's left hanging without anything under it, it still works better than if you make sure there's something under it. Okay. Looking good. Okay, let's see what we got. On the 5th take. Oh, that looks really good. I think that's the best print. I've got some spatter here, but I'm going to cut the paper right there. Get rid of that spatter. And that's looking to me like the best print right there. That's beautiful. Just the right density, just the right proportions. Awesome. That's it right there. That's what I'm looking at. That's what I'm looking for. Perfect. So that's number 5. Given that looks so good, I think I'm going to quit right there. Normally I have to go to 9 to get this, but this is working. All right. So now I'm going to take and scrub this in the sink really good. With my larger fish, I have to take them out in the backyard and really spray them off with the hose. And with the larger fish, I'm actually doing these Gyutakus on the ice gel packs to keep it cool. This was in the refrigerator for a while, so it's still very cool. The meat's still good. I just have to get the water-soluble ink off and prepare the fish. So that's what I'm going to do right now. All right. So after I cleaned off the fish, the water-soluble ink just washes right off. The fish was still nice and cold from being in the fridge, and it's ready to eat. So I gutted it, gilled it, and we have a Gyutaku, and we have a beautiful striped sea bass to eat. So that's all there is to it. Love it. Okay. Alrighty. So now I just, with my straight edge and razor and my sewing cutting board, cut my Gyutaku to size. And now I'm going to do the honko. And so with the honko, we start out with high quality paste. High quality paste is essential because it doesn't bleed. So I'm gonna mix the paste. We have a ball right here, and you mix it with the ox bone, like so. It's animal bone because it's flexible and it can take and then you do it until it's tacky. There we go. And then what I'm gonna do is take my block here and get the ink on it. Before I do that, I've got to change my gloves because I have some red ink on them. Just like so. Now for when you apply it, you need this sewing board to make sure everything is straight on your Gyutaku sheet, so that when you, because you can see the lines through the paper, and then you can put your block signature right on top of the line so that everything is straight. Very important. So you really need one of these boards. So I'm going to put a new set of gloves on. I'm going to take my block, and you do this. And high quality paste is sticky. So you're going to do this over the whole block. Make sure that you have good coverage on the block. So I spend some time doing this so I get a high quality print. What makes it sticky is all the plant fiber are holding this iron oxide. So you're pulling the pigment from the plant fiber. Where they came up with this is like thousands of years ago. And how they came up with the mugwort as a right fiber to hold the pigment, I don't know. But so anyway, this is what you do. And the Japanese got it from the Chinese. All right. Okay, I think we've done enough there. Then what I like to do is take some paper towel and just clean the edges of it so that nothing transfers from the edge, on the side of it I mean, onto the paper. Because you want it as crisp a print as possible. And then I change this out because I don't want any red smudges anywhere. I want a nice clean print. All right. So you can put these prints anywhere. Just find a place that gives balance to the print. So I'm probably going to put it like back here somewhere. So you push down the paper till you can see the lines, and then line it up. And then what I like to do, I press it and rock it a little bit. You don't want to rock it too much, because you don't want any ink transferring from the sides where it shouldn't. So I apply pressure. Where this sewing cutting board is nice is it has some give to it, right? So you can press down into the board itself. Okay. And now at this point, I'm going to take the camera down, and so you can see exactly what a good transfer looks like. All right, so here it is. And I'm just going to hold this paper down and slowly pull it up. Kind of rock it up like this, and then pull up. And there we go. That's what the print looks like with the Honko, the signature block. And then for further details, with some people like to put different information. I like to put the size of the fish, the date, location, that kind of thing, and my initials down at the bottom. You can put whatever you want on your honka though. There we go. Ready to be framed. All right. All right, a day has gone by, and let that Gyutaku dry out really thoroughly. Picked up a cheap frame, preferably acrylic rather than glass. And I picked this up from Michael's. It's like a 2-for-1 deal. And notice the black frame. You really want a black frame for the Gyutakus. And then I went to Staples and I picked up this black foam board. It's been really working good for me. It's pretty thick. It's like a 1/4 inch thick. And I mount the Gyutaku to this, and it fits perfectly in the frame, provides enough bulk and back, and causes the fibers, because you can see the fibers, you can see through the rice paper to the fibers, and they really pop out. The fish pops out, and then with this black frame and that white paper, it works out pretty good. So the first step, of course, is we need to remove the backboard of this frame. And we're just gonna go around, all around, like so. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the board in the back of the frame here, and I'm gonna use that as a template for my foam board. And I'm gonna cut it out then with a razor blade. So we're gonna pull out this foam board. Leave that in place. Okay. And then this goes right here. All right, so I removed the board from the frame, and I'm going to use the back board, as the template to then cut the foam board. So underneath, I've got that sewing cutting board, so I don't go through to the table. And I'm just going to put this board right. Sometimes these poster boards have little creases and stuff, so I pick the best area, and I'm going to line it up just like so, and cut it. Just like this. Cuts really easy, using that board as a template. Cut the other edge. I really like this foam board because when you pack it into the frame, there's enough tension that it keeps that rice paper flat against the acrylic. Right. Sometimes you have to do a couple shots. There we go. Another one on this edge. Now this piece comes off. And the foam board there is a perfect fit. And you can do this with any picture frame, small, large. Take that board, use as a template, take a razor blade, and you got the foam board. And now we're gonna put the rice paper, the Gyutaku, centered perfectly on this foam board. So here's the Gyutaku. And okay, beautiful. Once I get the dimensions the way I want it, I then use double-sided tape to mount it in several places. And then I put it in the frame. So let's see here. The trick is to get it centered because it has to be perfectly centered. So I do it by sight, and then I go get my tape measure. So I've got the tape measure here, and 2.5. So it's going to be 2.5 at the top, it looks like. It's good. It's good. And just keep measuring it. That's perfect right there as far as the top bottom goes. So now we're going to do the sides. Looks like 6 inches, 6 inches, 5.5. So we want to do 5 3/4. And that should be perfect. 5 3/4. 5 3/4, 5 3/4, and 5 3/4. So now we're going to make sure this, there we go, 2.5, 2.5, 2.5, 2.5. Okay, that looks about perfect. So once you have the measurements all set up, you take your double-sided tape, and I'm just using the Scotch double-sided tape right here. And let's take a big piece, anchor it, take one, put it on the paper, mount it. Take the other one, make sure that is pretty flat. Put that one right there. Okay. And then I'm just going to put, because it's water soluble ink, you're going to have wrinkles in the paper, and that's just part of what you're dealing with. So a little bit of wrinkles is okay. So I mounted these tops. I'm going to put one in the middle here. I don't want to put any more because then it forces the thing when the weight goes on top of it and you have more wrinkles. So we're just going to anchor one here in the bottom.
pull this out just like that. And call it a day right there. All right. So now, can put this off to the side. Actually, put this right here. Get rid of this board. All right, now I got the picture frame. I leave this paper in to the last minute because stuff can fall on it, like little dog hairs. I have a Doberman, so I get little black hairs everywhere. Move this off to the side. Perfect. And now, I'm gonna take this mounted Gyutaku here, and I'm gonna drop it right in there. And because I use the board, it should fit perfectly. Beautiful. And it just pops in place perfectly. It's thick enough that I have the right tension on it. And let's see. Make sure you have it going the right direction, because this board has the hooks in it. So I'm going to go like this. And we're going to sometimes you have to pop this through. So. There we go. Perfect. There we go. All right, so you just make sure all these things are lined up. And now we'll push these tabs down. And I'll get a pen to do that, I think, or use this razor blade, because these edges can be sharp. There we go. Nice. Sorry about that whining. I locked the dog outside because I didn't want him making noise. But now he's whining. He thinks he has a right to be in here, so anyway. He gets to stay out there for a little bit till I'm done. And just like that. You would think his
life is misery just having to be out there for a few minutes. That's an indoor dog for you. Especially these Dobermans, they have to be with you all the time or they think the world's not right. Okay, get these last two tabs down. And I think we're there. Got all the tabs down, got everything mounted in there. All right, so let's see what we got.
Okay, I think we're there. Right dimensions. Looks really good. As you can see, it's not a difficult process. Supplies are pretty cheap. And there's an easy way to do it with that foam board. So anyway, really appreciate it if you hit subscribe and like this video if you would. It means a lot to me. And we'll try to get you some more in the future. All right, have a good one.